All right, welcome back to another episode of the IDP Guys Waiver Wire Show. As always, I am your host, Michael Sicoli, joined here by Axton Harding, my co-host. What a week, what a time to be going into the Week 17 finals. A weird statement to say with some confidence, given how fantasy football normally plays out, but we're here. We're here after a very, very long season. And we had our Christmas Day, we had our Hanukkah days. How has everything been for you, Axton?
Not too bad, not too bad. I'm playing in a couple of finals myself in Dynasty Leagues this week. Things I've been getting by the hair on my chinny chin. So I'm hoping my guys can pick it up this week. But I'm not doing too bad. How are you doing?
I'm not doing too bad either. And I have the same thing. I made the finals 3 of my 9 leagues this year. I should have been 4 though. Should have been 4. I was telling you that before in the IDP Guys Masters tournament. I finished 6th of 24 teams. I learned this morning that I just missed out the cut to our own Dynasty Bison by 3.2 points. I played Russell Wilson. He got me negative 5.24 points, which then sealed my fate in the for that league. But it's been a fun ride nonetheless. So a little bit of heartbreak this morning compared to the jubilation I was feeling last night. But either way, we're doing all right. We're going to try to get to that Week 17 titles. We're trying to help you guys get to your Week 17 titles. So thank you to everyone as well. We're entering a new year here. We're giving thanks to everybody that stuck with the show throughout the entire year. We've had a lot of people comment every single week, and be sure to keep doing that right now. And the support week in, week out has always been incredibly appreciated. I know by myself, and I'm sure by Axton. So thank you to everyone there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're trying to bring it home this week. Yeah, we're trying to bring it home this week. And I would be remiss as well if I don't say the one last thing that is going on right now that I've been mentioning sometimes. If you go to idpguys.org/contest, you can be entered to win a Nakobe Dean jersey as well as a few other things. When we reach 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, we're only 88 away right now, so that's going to come real soon. Be sure to subscribe and enter the contest. Nakobe Dean is going to be a star next year. I think we're all feeling good about that. So either way, let's get into the defensive line pickups for this week. Let's just jump right into it.
Don't forget last week.
I'm not, because last week, I won't lie, we had a lot of hits last week. They were not at the defensive line position. Kayvon Thibodeau was 6 tackles, a QB hit. Depending on your scoring, you might have got away with it, but not the week you're hoping for. We're hoping you're going to get to the quarterback again. Greg Gaines, only 1 tackle, which again, I blame Russell Wilson for because of the sheer lack of a game script for a Rams defensive tackle when they jumped to a 17-point lead in the first 8 minutes of the game. We also mentioned Dalvin Tomlinson, who pretty much was a miss. 2 tackles, a TFL, a QB hit. Not the night we were kind of hoping for in a revenge game against the Giants as well. So hoping to get back on track with defensive linemen. We did a lot better with other positions. But which one do you want to take it away with? We got 2 names here, both of which I think are interesting streamers for this week. Which I'll let you take the lead here, Axton.
Oh, I'll go ahead and throw out Carl Granderson, defensive lineman for the New Orleans Saints. If he's still on your waivers, he probably shouldn't be, especially at this point, considering just this last week he had a 6 tackle game, including a sack, 3 tackles for a loss, 2 quarterback hits. He's really been getting it done as of late. The last couple of weeks, he's had 13 tackles for a defensive lineman. That's a pretty good floor you're looking at for the last 2 games. It seems like he's been increasing his snaps, I think probably due to Pete Werner's absence. Is that correct? I think they're using more of a D-line rotation with those linebackers too.
I think it's also a testament to how bad Marcus Davenport has been this year. I think that's also a bit of it. And even Cam Jordan have a bit of a down year, but obviously he's still out there. But yeah, I think it could be a mix of a lot of things and just a need to get pressure without Cam Jordan's not carrying right now. And maybe they're just paying extra attention to him, which is opening more opportunities for Granderson.
Absolutely, yeah. And so, I mean, before the bye week in week 14, he really never saw consistent usage, anything from 20 snaps, 19 snaps to up to like 39, 49. Nothing really consistent to rely upon, but the last couple of weeks, he's seen no less than 43 snaps. So nearing 100 just for the last 2 weeks to go with a sack and a half, several tackles for a lost quarterback hits and such. Definitely going to be a good streamer going up against Philly this week. We'll just kind of have to see. I'm not sure. I would assume Jalen Hurts should be making his way back. But nonetheless, there's just going to be a lot of good offense for him to capitalize on this week. So he ought to be a good streamer.
I'm not even sure if he makes his way back, to be honest. We'll see. It's going to be really close for them because I think that shoulder injury is significant enough. Now that you take out Lane Johnson from that offensive tackle, which only helps Carl Granderson as well, with the Eagles losing their best offensive tackle and still probably having Minshew, who did fumble as well this weekend, as well as turn the ball over twice. So yeah, I think Granderson could be a very good name to keep it going. And I'm going to throw another name here that I will say I don't want to trust this type of name in my fantasy finals. It is a low floor guy. It's a 45% snap type of guy, but the production has been incredible of late. I'm talking about Darryl Taylor of the Seattle Seahawks, defensive end. Again, like I said, low floor. He's been around 40% of snaps the last few weeks, which is the highest he's seen of the season. He is trending up because he has 3 sacks and the TFL in the last 4 games in that span, and 5 quarterback hits as well in that rip. So the production has been there. They're ramping up his time, his opportunity. And listen, he plays the Jets this week. And the reason why Mike White missed a few weeks is because he got hit. He got hit really hard right in the ribs. And listen, I think Darryl Taylor is a good bet to get that sack yet again this week. I understand if people don't want to chase it because, like I said, probably 3 tackles, probably a TFL. Does he get the sack? He's done it in 3 of the last 4 games. I think he'll do it again. But if he doesn't, you're really disappointed. So it's a risk-reward system right now for the needy, for the deeper dynasty, for the deeper IDP leagues, which I know there are. We're trying to serve all of the niches out there. I think Darryl Taylor could be a nice play that is very lowly owned and not rostered in almost every format.
Absolutely. Yeah, you mentioned low snap count, but obviously he's been getting a quarterback as of late, and just kind of reiterating that matchup with the Jets. So I think that's a good dart throw for this week.
Yes, sir. And I do see your question, Willpower, in the chat, and we're going to get to that right at the end. It's always good for me to remind on how this goes. So keep on dropping questions in the chat. We're going to answer them after we go through the defensive side of the ball. So after defensive backs, we will answer your questions. And then after the offensive questions, we'll answer everything everyone has left, because we always say it is the best way to help you win your titles, win your championship, win your weeks, is when we can actually help the direct situations you're dealing with. So be sure to drop comments down below. We always want to help out with that. Let's move on to the linebackers, meat of the position. So last week, lots of goodies and hits. So Juwan Bentley had a season-high 12 tackles, with a recommendation last week, as well as 9 of which were solo. Troy Anderson, down week, very disappointing in terms of production. Only 3 tackles and a forced fumble. But he did play 88% snaps. Michael Walker was an afterthought. Like we talked about on the show last week, I said I'd play Troy Anderson, I'd pick him up and drop Michael Walker, which was the right process. Production didn't come. Maybe it's the weather, something that I think I'm willing to trust and give him another shot next week. And I also talked about Jermaine Pratt, only 3 tackles and a pass defense in a really good matchup. So very disappointing there, but that's kind of the volatility we've seen from him at times this year. So disappointing there, but we're going to try to go 3 for 3 this week. I want to start with Robert Spillane. So I'm a Steeler fan, as I got right here. I'm saying this because I know who Robert Spillane is, and it's not that good. We'll see. He's textbook old school linebacker. He is big body. You don't want to drop into coverage, but he'll fill the gap and he'll run stuff. And that's what he's done the last 2 weeks when he's been 100% snap linebacker. That hasn't happened any other week this season. They are moving around this linebacker, trying to find some combination that works, and it did work for the Steelers this past week. They limited Josh Jacobs. Robert Spillane is the guy that they're rocking with right now. I do think they make it 3 weeks in a row because they have a really good matchup for someone like Robert Spillane. They face Baltimore, which is an average matchup, but still better than Carolina and the Raiders were over the last 2 weeks. And Baltimore runs the ball. They're a very run-heavy team, especially without Lamar Jackson. So that shapes up well for Robert Spillane to fill the gap, do what he's been doing. He had 7 tackles in week 15, 12 in week 16. He's still on a lot of wires because of lack of production year long. But the last 2 weeks, he's been a solid start. I think that's easily going to make it 3 in a row. And if you need a linebacker start, we're not holding Fab for anything at this point. I'm willing to. He is my probably top IDP get if he is available on your wire still this week.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that Baltimore matchup becomes a little bit more favorable just since Lamar Jackson hasn't been playing, since they're running the ball a lot more. That just offers plenty more opportunity for those linebackers to get in there and make more stops. So I like that pick for this week. One I threw up here for the week would be linebacker for the Las Vegas Raiders, Luke Masterson. In light of the Jayon Brown IR stint and Denzel Perryman getting injured, he's seen an increase in snaps, just up to 57 this last week, where he actually had. Here, let me look it up here. I know I had it all. I didn't write it all out. Anyways, he had double-digit tackles this last week. He had 9 last week, so 19 just in the last 2 weeks. And he's also had a tackle for a loss in each of those weeks. So he's seen a lot more snaps in this Las Vegas Raiders defense. That otherwise isn't really all that impressive, but there's plenty of opportunity for that linebacker position, especially since there's just been so many injuries to this defense. Masterson's really been able to come in throughout the season and fill in and be a serviceable fantasy asset. So I think he'd be someone you can rely on to get plenty of snaps, just for the simple fact of the injuries and just obvious playtime he's been getting. So definitely worth a good stream this week.
I think we're really learning something about. I mean, if we didn't know it already, about the linebacker position this year, of how replaceable it can be. I mean, we are in week 17. I think Luke Masterson is a smash start this week, especially against the 49ers and the run-heavy team they are. We talk about Robert Spillane being a smash start, smash play. These are 100% guys all of a sudden that are available, because when somebody goes down, you put it incredibly well in your tweet the other day about IDP football, is when people go down, production goes up for other people. So Luke Masterson is onto a really important role right now. He had a season-high 84% of snaps this past week. Like you said, turned into 10 tackles. He's at 21 in the last 2 weeks, plus a TFL in each. And again, plays the 49ers. I think he's a smash play as well, and somebody that is on a lot of waiver wires, despite us talking about him early in the year because of, like you said, the Jayon Brown injury, the Divine Diablo injuries. And, I mean, listen, there are guys out there that, will help you fill the hole that those guys left behind. So I'm going to throw out one other name. I think we are both in agreement that we like Luke Masterson and Robert Spillane a lot more than the third name here. But in terms of readily available, I think you could do a lot worse than Anthony Barr this week. So Dallas Cowboys linebacker right now hasn't had a lot of top-tier production, because that's not really how the Cowboys use their linebackers. It's not they don't have an every down guy most weeks, and it's typically a one linebacker shifting in. Damone Clark, Lane Vander Esch, Anthony Barr. But now Vander Esch, I expect him to miss Thursday's game. Didn't practice yesterday, although it was a walkthrough. I don't expect him to practice today. He didn't play this past week. It opened Barr up to a larger role this week, up to 7 tackles in back-to-back weeks. He should face Derrick Henry, although he also didn't practice this past week. Either way, it's a run-heavy Titans team. And Anthony Barr played 90% of snaps in Week 15. I think as long as Vander Esch is out, I think Barr is in for a very high-floor type of play. And again, like I said, I would rather have Luke Masterson. I would rather have Robert Spillane. But I think Anthony Barr will get the job done to a high-floor type of performance with a high enough ceiling because of how bad this Titans offense is in terms of turnover potential, forced fumbles with Malik Willis. I think Anthony Barr will have a pretty solid day. Somebody I might be looking at for IDP props as well when the lines open up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just kind of reiterating that that run-first mentality for the Tennessee Titans just offers a lot more opportunity, considering there's just really not going to be a lot of successful offense to capitalize on with Malik Willis in there right now until he gets his feet under himself. So they're inevitably going to rely on the pass, whether that be with Malik Willis, Dontrell Hilliard, or Derrick Henry, whoever ends up playing in the backfield this week. So solid pick there.
Yeah, and now I mean, Dr. Hilliard's. I mean, I don't even think he's healthy anymore. So it's the Hassan Haskins show potentially.
Oh, yeah, I
It's
guess that's
it's a banged up Titans team. I don't think there's, with the exception of I guess maybe the Chargers and obviously the 49ers. I'm not sure any team has had worse injury luck this year than the Tennessee Titans. From Harold Landry early in the year to the numerous injuries at safety and at linebacker, David Long, Zach Cunningham, Jeffrey Simmons missing, missing some time this year. So just brutal for them. But let's move on to defensive back. Last week, solid showings out here. So I'm very happy with Deron Bland, somebody I think a lot of people weren't totally aware of despite the interception streak he was on. We brought him up on the show. He had 5 tackles. He had another interception and a pass defense, so a solid day for him. Rayshawn Jenkins, we mentioned in the rainstorm of New York, 9 tackles and a TFL. That got the job done. And Chuck Clark had 7 tackles, pass defense. We talked about as a high floor type of play, and that's exactly what he delivered. Yet again, one of his better performances on the season as that 100% type of role. So, really bad and high right now on defensive back, and I'm hoping we keep it going this week. And a lot of people might be needing it this week. Budda Baker now out for 2 weeks, and therefore the regular season, and therefore the actual season for the Arizona Cardinals. And Derwin James, possibly concussed last night and obviously got ejected after that crushing hit. I'm not sure if you caught the game last night, Axton, but that was...
I saw replays.
I heard that through my TV, through my spine. I felt that one. But yeah, let's talk about the pickups this week for people who might be needing those defensive backs. Logan Ryan is the first one I want to talk about. So a lot of people saw Logan Ryan this week play horrifically because he really didn't play that well. And I'm not sure many people on that Tampa Bay defense in the secondary have all year, but still got 100% snaps. That's normally what he does. He had 88% this past week because he got checked out after a big collision, but he is a 100% type of guy. He did it from week 13 to 15, and he would have done it this past week too. He has 5+ tackles in each of those games, which establishes at least a semi-decent floor. And he had 8 this past week again, despite missing 12% of the snaps. And he faces Carolina, which is very, we saw what they did in Detroit. It's a very run-heavy team that Logan Ryan in the box as well as downfield can make those tackles. And also offer some interception opportunities because this is, at the end of the day, still Sam Darnold we are talking about. So I think Logan Ryan, who we might have forgot about a little bit because the injuries he suffered in the middle and the early part of the season, I think he's in for a very strong finish this year. I think Logan Ryan will do have a nice end to this season.
Yeah, he's had really a nice solid, at the very least, a good tackling floor since he returned from his injury. And he's just kind of been one of those guys that's really always been pretty serviceable. He's not been anything too flashy or too crazy, at least the last couple of years, but just somebody you can rely on. So it's good to see him kind of get back to it after his injury. Next name we got up here is one we've brought up before. But we're going to kind of throw him in there as another streamer for this week. He's been doing pretty well, and that's Cam Taylor-Britt, safety for the Cincinnati Bengals. He's got is he a safety or is he a cornerback?
He has both eligibilities on MFL. So okay. I'll check what he is on Yahoo, but he does have both eligibilities. I think it does fit under defensive backs when you get to be both. But
right.
I'll check on Yahoo right now. On Yahoo, he is listed as a cornerback.
Okay. So in the case of a quarterback, in the case of him being lined up as a cornerback, this is going to present a pretty good matchup. You listed your top 5. My what I was just kind of taking a look at just has him as even a top 2 matchup this week against the Buffalo Bills as a cornerback. He's had 5 pass deflections in just the last 4 games. His tackles have been kind of hit or miss. He's either going to get you 6 or 8, or he's going to get you 3 or 4. But just the fact that he's getting in there and making plays, getting his hands on some passes that are being thrown his way, just shows a lot of encouragement, especially going up against the Bills in a favorable matchup this next week. But Josh Allen has been turnover prone throughout the season, and it just really lends well to good passes, and mistake-prone quarterbacks lend well to guys like Cam Taylor-Britt that really get their hands in there on those passes to really have the opportunity to go in and make those extra plays, maybe get you some extra points, maybe even snag an interception this week. So I think he'd be a solid streamer and be serviceable at the very least.
And we've seen Josh Allen talk himself or play himself out of the MVP conversation because of these turnovers that he has thrown. And listen, I mean, that shapes up well for a cornerback like Cam Taylor-Britt, who's really had a really good showing this past week. And Will also brings up that Logan Ryan does play Carolina this week, which is a great matchup for defensive backs. Definitely part of the argument I was meaning to bring up, so I'm glad you did it, Will. Thank you for that. And remember, everybody, keep on dropping questions in the chat because we obviously are trying to help you guys with that. And the last thing I want to throw out here, it's not exactly a pickup, but in terms of the injuries I mentioned, particularly to Budda Baker, IDP star, he will be out for the rest of the season. So if Budda Baker is on your wire, or you can place him on your wire with confidence, Chris Banjo is the guy I'll be picking up. I think Jalen Thompson gets the biggest boost, somebody that we've seen be a really good name with Budda Baker out. So if Jalen Thompson is on your wire right now, I think he's a very good stream this week. Chris Banjo being a more of a low-level guy, not someone I want to trust in my finals without seeing it, but Jalen Thompson's more of the name for me. Are you on the same page with that, Axton?
Yep. Yep.
All right, and then the other thing was if Derwin James misses, I know this was from Leo, not exactly me, and I do trust Leo with all of my IDP trust. Alohi Gilman would be the pickup for Derwin James should he miss a week. It's a tougher matchup with the Rams, but then again, that's based on the year-long sample. The Rams are targeting the tight end more of late with Tyler Higbee, and that's where the safety tends to be following, at least where Derwin James would, and I imagine Gilman will as well. So that's an interesting low-level stream as well, if Derwin James misses. But let's move on to some questions because I know we have some from Will right now, and remember, keep on dropping them in. Willpower asks, what's going on with Harrison Smith and what happened with Rashaan Evans this weekend? He's saying he's happy he moved on. He played Minshew and a very nice week. We're going to get into that. But he also had Aaron Jones and Ramondre Stevenson, who combined for some of the stinkier performances this week. So do you have any takes on this? Because I definitely have some thoughts, actually.
Go ahead and get her started. I'm kind of looking up.
Okay. So I'll start with Rashaan Evans. I'm not worried at all. Rashaan Evans still played 100% snaps, still played his normal amount. Troy Anderson took the Michael Walker role, like I talked about. It was just weather. I'm going to chalk it up to weather of that just being an incredible outlier of a game of every sense of it. We were adjusting all of that. It was just neither offense was staying on the field. There were short drives. It was a low-scoring game. I think we're in for much better games for Rashaan Evans going forward, and he still flashed that floor. I mean, he still has 6 tackles. The problem was only 2 of them were solo, which was his lowest solo tackle game since week 2. So, again, I think we're in for much better days with Rashaan Evans going forward. Harrison Smith, a little bit more disappointing because I really liked that matchup against the Giants, and I was rooting for him the entire way. He took off a drive for Josh Metellus, which was weird, because he lost snaps to somebody that he doesn't normally lose snaps at all to. So I'm a little bit alarmed about it, but he does face Green Bay. We put up 7 tackles and an interception and a pass defense against in week 1 of this year. I don't expect them to be benching Harrison Smith, who still played most of the game, still 86% snaps. So I'm willing to trust him one more week. I understand being burnt by it because I was too. He was one of my prop picks for Sunday or Saturday, it was Sunday. He was one of my prop picks. I thought he would easily get to 6 tackles. He did not. So yeah, I'm willing to. It was Saturday, but I'm willing to give him another shot. I have much more confidence with Rashaan Evans, obviously, than Harrison Smith.
Yep, I'm in agreement. Harrison Smith, you pretty well hit the nail on the head there. We were kind of hoping that he would have a little bit better day against the Giants, but I think this Packers matchup presents an even better opportunity for him to really get back to form. It's makes you a little nervous, just kind of seeing these inconsistencies with him taking a drive off and just kind of seeing that dip in production, especially when we really need him in these fantasy playoffs. But I think Harrison Smith has a great opportunity to get back to forming a top 5 matchup this week for the safety position. And then Rashaan Evans, he's just been somebody that you're not benching him. You really forgive and forget on this one. The 6 tackle being upset over a 6 tackle game. I get it coming from a guy who's averaging over 10 tackles a game, but at the same time, when you put it in the grand scheme of things, you really look still serviceable. You know what I mean? He's somebody that's still startable, somebody you're still going to rely on because he's been there for you all year long. I'm not, I think Michael pretty well hit all the good points and maybe explaining maybe the down week, but Evans is just somebody you can't not rely on. You got to put him out there.
Yeah, and when I really do chalk it up to when the snaps don't dip, and we have an outlier like the weather was this weekend. I'm going to chalk that up to a reason why he has a down game, personally. But he also mentioned Josh Allen. Josh Allen had 4 points in the opening drive, and it was 6 tackles on the day. Honestly, that's one of his better games this year. It's just been really inconsistent, and not through any fault of his own. I think Josh Allen has had a quietly very good year, just that he hasn't finished plays, and I think it's also a testament to the lack of talent he has around him. But listen, I mean, he actually ended with, if I'm looking at this right, if we're talking about the same Josh Allen, he only had 2 tackles. But listen, yeah, I think they need to add another pass rusher to help him, and I don't think Travon Walker is that guy to be helping Josh Allen. Hopefully it is, but I really do think they need someone else to get some pressure up the interior to help the guys on the edge. But that's real life NFL talk that I'm sure I'll be talking about all off season too. Do you have any thoughts on Josh Allen?
Nope, you pretty well hit it, man. You've been somebody that's been kind of up and down throughout the season. Yeah, but I'm like you. I'm only seeing a couple of tackles for this last week. But he has been getting. He's had a couple of sacks in the last few weeks, so he's been all right.
Yeah, and he did fix. He said Jonathan Allen is what he meant actually.
Oh.
Which fair enough. Listen, we have a lot of Allens in the league, and yeah, disappointing. Definitely against San Fran. I think part of it might have been I'd have to double check the stats right now, but I wonder if he got pulled as well. I mean, they were blown out of that game. They were never really in it. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's played, 1 or 2 less drives than what he normally would. And they also just gashed him. So I think he's in for a better week against Cleveland this coming week. But he does ask, he's going with Harrison Smith and Kyle Duggar in the final, but any other names that we would throw out that are better? So to bring up the DBs we just talked about, would you play either of them, Axton, over those guys? I think Logan Ryan we like more than Cam Taylor-Britt this week. So would you play Logan Ryan over Harrison Smith or Kyle Duggar?
Well, who do the Patriots play this week?
The Patriots have Miami, which ranks middle of the pack against safety. And it could be, probably almost definitely will be without Tua Tagovailoa this week, which means I'm not entirely sure. It means higher interception potential, but less completions, and in terms of less completions, but less downfield threat. It's a give and take situation because you have I don't even know how to. That is tough. He does say guys like DeMar Hamlin and Jordan Poyer are out there. I'm chasing that interception potential. I'm chasing the talent of Kyle Duggar. To be honest, I'm willing to play Kyle Duggar and Harrison Smith over those guys.
Yeah, I think so too. I think I'm sticking with Harrison Smith and Duggar over the guys that we mentioned today. I mean, you could kind of go back to any one of our streams from the last couple of weeks and maybe pick apart any guys that might have some favorable matchups this week as far as defensive backs we've thrown out there. Rashaan Jenkins is one that has been doing all right. I don't believe he has all that much of a favorable matchup this week. Richie Grant's been pretty serviceable lately. Just kind of guys in that echelon. You're really looking for I guess we can even kind of just list off like opponents in the top 10. Offenses that have allowed a lot of points to the safety position are like Dallas Cowboys, your Ravens, Colts, Packers, Chiefs, Jets, Cardinals, Falcons, Giants, Browns, teams like that. If you kind of look for defensive backs for opponents of theirs for this week, and just kind of see if there's any guys that are that we've kind of brought up or that have been serviceable or been had some decent games or seen some good playing time this last week. Those are going to be probably some of your most favorable matchups. DeMar Hamlin is a good one that we've mentioned. Jordan Poyer we've mentioned recently, so might be worth an add. I'm not going to go ahead and say that any one of these guys are going to be better than your what you've got in there already, but but if you're feeling iffy on it, I would go ahead and just kind of might add one of those guys and just you got a little bit of time to just think about it and maybe analyze, dig into some things a little bit deeper, and maybe come to a more comfortable decision by the end of the week.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said, and I think I agree. I'll rock with Harrison Smith and Kyle Duggar. There's just too much volatility with DeMar Hamlin and Jordan Poyer right now, and Cincinnati's not the greatest matchup for that. He says Rayshon Jenkins is available, but like you said, Houston is not the greatest matchup because of the lack of everything that they tend to put out there, although they have played better in recent weeks. I don't mind Jenkins, and I think he will still have a higher floor than Harrison Smith if that's something you're chasing. But I do like the matchup with Harrison Smith. I don't expect him to be benched in any way. That was just a really weird one. Like, he missed the second drive of the game for no reason. The Giants drove down and scored their only touchdown of the game. I don't know why that happened, but I'm willing to give Harrison Smith another ride. But he also says, we're going to touch on this in a little bit, but he says they might sit Derrick Henry because this game doesn't matter, and it doesn't for the Tennessee Titans, which, go figure. We pushed the fantasy finals back a year this year because we thought Week 17 would matter, and it still doesn't for two of these teams. But, yeah, the Week 18 will determine. So this is the weird situation with the Jags. The Jags can still make it. This week still technically matters for the Jags, but it's like a 6% chance of them actually mattering. Because it's a win in a Week 18 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. If the Jaguars win and like Miami loses and the Jets lose and the Jets lose out, the Steelers lose out, and something else happens, which all things that are semi-likely, the Jags can qualify even if they lose in Week 18. The Titans, though, this week means nothing. And Derrick Henry didn't practice this past day. I need to see him practice today. And thankfully, it's a Thursday night game, so we will know. But, and we're going to talk about this in a bit in terms of who to pick up. I'll just say it right now. It's Hassan Haskins. But we're going to go into that a little bit deeper when we get to running back. So let's just jump right into that right now. He does say divisional game against the Packers, so he doubts Smith takes a playoff. I doubt that as well. The number one seed is wide open in the NFC right now with the Eagles losing and still potentially having Minshew and obviously having a tougher end to the schedule. Plus, the Vikings are surging. The Vikings are a good team, and I don't like anybody that says otherwise because they are. But let's move on to the offensive side of the ball. Quarterbacks. Last week, crushed it. Axton, I think we crushed it is the safe way to put it. We talked about Daniel Jones. 334, one touchdown and interception, 34 yards rushing. Finished as the QB9 for the week. That's a nice little waiver wire play right there. And we also said I'm rocking with the Minshew magic. Despite 2 interceptions, despite a forced fumble, 355, 2 touchdowns, a rushing touchdown. Finished as the QB5 on the week, or at least going into last night. And I don't think last night changed all that much based on the quarterback play that was there. So, yeah, I mean, QB5 right there, QB9. We're going to try to keep it going with another 2 top 10 plays even potentially. But we only have one name this week. And the reasoning behind it, at least for me, Axton, is that I don't want to give bad advice for the sake of giving 2 names. And I just don't think that there are many streamers out there this week that I'm just that excited about. I don't know if there's any other names you wanted to bring up besides the one we have. But are you feeling enthused about the one to take it, or do you want me to take it?
Oh, you can throw it out there. I'll see. I'm just kind of I'll just take a look at some matchups and just kind of see what's out there for this week and see if I can find any streamers. Like you said, I'm not really too confident in a whole lot of them this week, especially at this point when we're getting really down to the wire. Yeah. I can say that I doubt it, but if Gardner Minshew's still out there and he's still, he's still going to play this week, he's going to be a solid play. Daniel Jones is another one that if he's available in your 1 QB leagues. I mean, just kind of rolling with what's worked so far.
Yeah, chances are you have a quarterback that you're feeling good about this week, or at the very least one that's got you here. But if you're not, I think Mike White is going to get you a fantasy championship. And I'll tell you why right now. So he faces Seattle, and he's in Seattle, which isn't great. And Seattle's been, let's just face it, they've been a bad team for 2 months now. And I don't think people are giving nearly enough crap to Geno Smith for that. But that's another conversation for another day. But Mike White, this is it's a must-win game for the Jets. They are pretty much out of the playoff conversation if they do not win this game. This team rallies behind Mike White. And I think they are so desperate that this is where they're going to do it. I think the Jets actually come out and storm over Seattle. I think they really show out this week, and I think it's because of Mike White, who, listen, 3 starts this year. He's thrown over 260 yards in each of them. 2 of those 3 games, went for over 300 yards. And I really believe that this offense will flow through Mike White's arm. And they can run the ball. Seattle's a great matchup against for running backs. Bam Knight will have a very good week, in my opinion. But I think it's because of Mike White. I think it's because of what he does for this offense. They move the ball with Mike White. They score touchdowns with Mike White. It's because he's an infinitely better quarterback than Zach Wilson. And I'm also so happy to see Chris Trevler last week. I just want to throw that out there. Anybody that followed me on Twitter, so happy. And I had friends at the game, and they were going insane to see Chris Trevler because he wasn't Zach Wilson. And that's what he's done to this offense. That's what Zach Wilson did. He demoralized them. Mike White energizes them. I really believe Mike White is good for 275 and 2 this week. And that is going to be good for a QB 12, QB 11, QB 8 type of performance for Mike White this week. I think he gets it done. I think he puts his heart on the line. And he's going to do it for your fantasy championships as well.
Yeah, he's definitely the difference maker for this offense. Under Zach Wilson, it just doesn't happen. With Joe Flacco, is just kind of, make a big play, and that's really about it. But I think Mike White's really been the only consistent quarterback that's played this year, and everybody else in here, everybody else just kind of gets lifted up with him just because of his play. So I do like him of the options that the Jets do have, but it's just not my cup of tea, at least for this week. But he should be more than serviceable. Purdy is kind of one that I think that I'm liking over White. Who do the 49ers?
They have the Raiders, which is a very nice matchup as well.
That is a good matchup. I think I'd personally take Brock Purdy if he's out there available to stream for this week over Mike White myself.
I won't.
Just Mike White's injury. Yeah, you can be. Hey, more power to you, man.
Yeah.
Boldness can win you. It's those hitting on those bold moves that really, especially at this point in the season, that can pay off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm more of a safe player myself, I guess. You could say that. Mike Purdy isn't really too much of a sexy play either, but. Yeah, I think Mike White I think that sounds about right. Probably would you say 275 and 2?
Yeah, I think that's very well. I mean, he hasn't thrown for less than that so far. He typically can throw. He's shown he's throwing for 2 touchdowns. He's done that 2 of the 3 games. And Seattle can be beat. I think Garrett Wilson, who, Will brings up in the chat saying he's calling him a league winner, could be. He's going to have a very tough matchup. It depends on who gets the slot work, because if they put him in the slot, they could avoid Woolen. If you put him out wide, that could be tougher. I think Woolen will probably be matched up on Corey Davis, which is probably best for the Jets, honestly. So I really do think that this is going to be a good week. And in terms of White over Purdy, depends on what you want. I think you could get a QB 20 week from Mike White that you won't get from Purdy. I think Purdy will be good for QB 16 this week. I think that is what he will be. I'm not really chasing QB 2 type of performances. I'm chasing the top 10s personally. But it also depends on your matchup. I'm assuming in the finals we're all facing good teams. If we're facing you're a heavy favorite, the 6 seed slipped through and they just lost Buda Baker and 7 other guys, maybe I'll go Purdy and take my likely safe points. But it's equally likely to me that Purdy doesn't throw a touchdown and they run 7 in on the Raiders. I think that's also possible. And now no Denzel Perryman too, which that'll help Kittle as well, honestly. So it could be a monster day for Kittle and Purdy. So I think Purdy's a good play as well. I don't think that's a bad play at all.
What do you think about Baker Mayfield this last week?
The man's cooking. The man, listen. Everyone wants to say Russ is cooking. Baker Mayfield has that easy bake oven. Listen, I don't like the Chargers matchup that much coming up. But if Derwin James is out, I like the Chargers matchup a little bit more. It's an important game, not for the Rams, but for Baker Mayfield. All these games are important. All these games are an audition, if not for himself with the Rams, then himself with another team. So I don't mind it. I don't want to. I really don't want to. But like, I if I was ranking, he's probably around like QB 19 this week. You know, like I'm not. I think his ceiling is QB 10. His floor is QB 26. Okay. So it's What about you? Do you have any? Are you confident?
I don't know. I don't. I really don't ever want to rely on Baker under any circumstances.
I want to. I want to every circumstance.
He looked good whenever he was playing this last. Didn't watch the whole game, but I watched a little part of it, and he just looked good. He looked comfortable in it. They seem to be really operating through the run. I mean, finally, I guess they've had this unknown, just whatever struggle with the backfield all season long, but now it seems like things are finally starting to come together in wake of all the injuries.
I am benching Josh Jacobs for Cam Akers in one of my championships.
That's what you said, yeah.
I have spent I think I've spent probably a combined 2 firsts, 3 seconds, and like a small piece on Derrick Henry and Josh Jacobs, and I might not be able to play either of them in my dynasty championship that I have never sniffed in 5 years. This is so important to me, this one. And
opponents against the Rams are having to focus so much on just stopping Akers every down that it's almost like they forget Baker can sling it once in a while. And so, they just roll with Cam every down that he can, get as many first downs as possible, and then they'll just throw in a quick slant from Baker Mayfield or like a big play over the top and just kind of break them down. And it seems like it's been working for him. So I don't know. Maybe one to stream, but it may be more of a long shot this week, I think, like you said.
I listen, and I'm going to address Will's comment of Baker to the Colts. I have such a strong belief that the Colts have to be looking for a rookie or something. There's no way they go after another veteran and do that for 4 years running.
Especially one that's been as shaky as Baker.
Yeah. But I have also realized that I am a Baker fan, and this show has gone totally off the rails. We're going to go into running backs real soon. And again, keep on dropping questions, hopefully fancy related, that we can help you with. But I've realized this season I am a Baker fan. I am so rooting for him, and especially now that he's out of Cleveland. And again, as a Steeler fan, never was really rooting for him, but now that he's out of Cleveland, I love the heart he shows. He took the benching like a champ. He learned from it. He came out better for it. And Will also asked, do we see the meme going around that Tua is the Hawaiian for Tim Tebow? I don't quite get the meme. But I think it's disrespectful to Tua, I don't think it's received enough praise.
I don't either, man. I was just looking in like the last 5 games. He's played 4 of the top 5 best defenses against the quarterback. And everyone's acting like that's...
And he's lit him up still.
Yeah, he still has. Cleveland was the top-end matchup that he just torched him, and then naturally he plays like the literal like 5 best defenses in the league against a quarterback and doesn't perform, and everyone's like, oh, Tua's nothing. Everybody hates Tua now for some whatever reason, but do we not pay attention to maybe the rest of the season? To me, coming from last year, I think this is a giant step forward, and I think Tua even takes more of a step going into next season. I'm not saying that Tua is God or anything like that, but he's making some big strides. I think the hype maybe going into this year was a little bit much, and the fact that I think maybe he's not quite living up to what a bunch of the haters were just assuming that everybody thought that he would reach, like some top 5 end quarterback. I didn't really expect one of the top quarterback plays in the league from him. Yeah, exactly. But he made such a big jump. He's cut his position in half. He was QB 26 last year. Right now, I think he's QB 13. That's a significant jump over a lot of other quarterbacks. So I think it continues. I'm still on the Tua train.
Yeah, I agree with that. And like you said as well, we're gonna move on to running backs now. But Tua has he's only faced 5 top half matchups this year. 5. In this entire season, it feels like he's missed a lot of times this year. he's missed 2 weeks. So out of 14 games or 12 games, he's only half of them have come against top tier defenses against the quarterback position. So whatever. Let's move on to the running back because we actually, for a week 17 thing for the finals, I have a lot of names here that are way too unrostered that I think can actually win you guys league. So last week, talked about Zach Moss, 12 for 65, got the work, was surprisingly efficient. Just my worry with him, which we talked about on the show last week, was that the Colts would be a bad team and they wouldn't be able to run the ball 24 times. So he got half as many carries. The Colts were a bad team, so they didn't score, and it didn't get done for fantasy. But it did show that he was the guy going forward, so that is what you can project for Zach Moss, and probably better days for the Colts, but not much better. And we're talking about Jerick McKinnon, only 5 carries for 7 yards, but he did get 3 catches for 31 and a touchdown. So we're happy with that. He got it done for you. Again, same way as early in this year when we recommended him. 2 weeks of stellar production and then dirt, but he found the touchdown this week, so we felt good about that at least. So let me talk about one of these names. Let me talk about this first name, please, good God. Because he is my guy, and I have been so high on him for so long. But do you want to kick us off with one of them, just because I'm feeling a little bit long rambled right now?
That's all right. Let me.
Not to thrust you with the.
No, you're good. Michael wrote down here for Kenneth Gainwell seems to be serviceable or stream-worthy, at least while Minshew's in. He saw 42% of snaps on the offense then this week. That's a season high for him. He saw 4 targets for 41 yards. Again, as the team just kind of reshaped their offensive game scheme around Gardner Minshew, who's not going to run the ball near as often, so he's going to make more passes. And Kenneth Gainwell is the receiving back for this team. So he's seen an increase in catches and targets the last week. So should Minshew continue to rock the quarterback position for the Eagles, I think Kenneth Gainwell could have an even better game. And let's see, and they even have a better matchup against New Orleans last week. The highest snap count of the year, saw the most targets, or tied for the most targets, got his most receptions of the year against one of the tougher defenses in the leagues. New Orleans is going to present a lot better matchup for the running backs, and should Minshew be running the quarterback position again, I think he's going to look to make maybe even a few extra dump offs to Kenneth Gainwell.
The interesting thing will also be, and we'll bring it up as well, Miles Sanders finally could also be good for Gainwell. I don't know if he'll carry into next week, but still is something to factor in. But if the Eagles fall behind, they use Gainwell. It's that simple. And we finally saw the Eagles fall behind, and that's what happened. So can the Saints rival that? Can they score enough points? Possibly. I think they could. I think this Eagles team is reeling without Jalen Hurts, and I think that they could. The return of Chris Olave, if Chris Olave is back, would mean even better things for Kenny Gainwell, ironically. But I'm going to move on to this other name. So this guy, 49% roster in Yahoo, 51% available, that means. Despite being on pace for 1,000 scrimmage yards, despite being a guy with 100-plus scrimmage yards in back-to-back games in tougher matchups, despite being someone they've committed to, amid a offensive revival under a rookie quarterback. 17 carries, 18 carries in the last 2 weeks. I am talking not about a day 1 running back, not a day 2 running back, but a day 3 rookie running back, Tyler Algier. So I went back and tried to find what I initially said about him because I did a whole pre-draft show, and my running back segment got lost in the clouds because it was in between 2 segments before I joined IDP Guys. I wasn't uploaded anywhere, so I actually don't have that. But I went back to my old pre-draft rankings. He was my RB4. I loved this guy. I really did. I was worried about the receiving work, which he's shown the last few weeks. Caught a few balls. He could do that too. He's got that in his hand. But he's a workhorse. That's what he was in college. That's what he was at BC, and it's what he is now. Or not BC, at oh my goodness, Russell Wilson School. Help me out here. BYU. Right? But
no idea. Not much college football lately.
I did a lot of scouting on Tyler Algier, and I really thought that he was a guy that in college. They knew he was getting the ball, and it didn't matter. He still put up over 1,500 rushing yards. He was their offense. And now in Atlanta, he is Atlanta's offense. They've committed him the last 2 weeks, and Atlanta has shown out somewhat positively on offense despite the ineffectiveness of Ritter. Algier is still effective on the ground. He's still been efficient. He's still averaging 4.5, 5 yards per carry. And that's not even what he was supposed to be. He's a good player. And he is so available in leagues. He faces Arizona, which is still a top 12 matchup for the running back position. Ride the hot hand. He's somebody that we're not talking. Everyone talks about Cam Akers. Tyler Algier is the less talked about Cam Akers right now because he's been that productive. He is that available. He is the more available Cam Akers. And if he's on your waiver wire, pick him up. You play him. I will play him over. I was about to say something. I might hold myself back. I'm not sure if I have the guts to do it, but I think he has a better week than Josh Jacobs this week. I think he will be a top 16 running back play, and I can't say that with confidence about Josh Jacobs.
Bold move. I think the upside could definitely be there, given the matchups this week. But again, 51% available on Yahoo. I would assume he's very available in your dynasty or redrafts on Sleeper. Not dynasty. Sorry.
Yeah, long slashing demand. But listen, RB8 in week 15, RB16 or RB12 in week 16, and that's against the Saints in Baltimore. Two
Tough
much
defenses.
tougher matchups. Arizona is the softest one he's faced since week 11, and even then, he averaged 7 yards per game in that week 11 game against Chicago. So, I am so in on Tyler Algier, and if it doesn't work out, you guys know where to find me on my Twitter. Feel free to @ me. I'll be just as crushed as you. But listen, I think he's a good player. He could hit 1,000 scrimmage yards. He had 5 targets this past week. I could talk for ages about Tyler Algier. I am such a big fan of his. So, yeah, day 3 running backs matter sometimes, as long as you're not paying
down the stretch
for them. Yeah, not Dameon Pierce's, but yeah.
Oh man,
sorry, I am inciting.
No, you're good, man. All rights to you. Tyler Algier's been killing it.
And I think there are a couple backups that we should be mentioning as well in the worst case situations. So we'll mention it before, but so 2 names right now. 2 names to bring up as backups. Justin Jackson of the Detroit Lions. Jamal Williams did leave this past week late. And a lot of people, it wasn't widely reported. I saw it today. I didn't even realize this. But if Justin Jackson, if Jamal Williams misses, Justin Jackson could be in for a very good role. He's been building into that for this Lions team. So I think Justin Jackson is another person you can get away with as a sneaky play this week. And if Derrick Henry misses, I don't want to play anybody against Dallas. It's a tough matchup. I don't want to do it. But Hassan Haskins would be the next guy up for me. Any thoughts there?
No, I didn't even know Justin Jackson was on the Detroit Lions. I'm not gonna lie.
that's fine. Yeah,
I thought he was still with the Chargers.
I know. He went unsigned for a surprisingly long time, honestly, based on how efficient he kind of was with the Chargers. But yeah, I mean, listen, he's 4 carries, 6 carries. That's what he is. 1 carry for -1 yards this past week. But if Jamal Williams is out, I think you see a 30-40% snap roll, potentially a touchdown, and it's against Chicago, which is one of the best matchups for fantasy running backs this year. So I do think you could do worse than Justin Jackson this week if Jamal Williams is out.
Yeah, if Jamal Williams is out, his role has really been big in the red zone this year. So should Justin Jackson see those same looks and plays, I think he ought to be a good play, definitely. And then Hassan Haskins, you just reiterating kind of what you mentioned. It's really not a great play, but as Tennessee offense doesn't look great, and it seems like they're just they work best through the run. So regardless, they're going to run the ball a lot.
Yeah.
You're just kind of taking a hit on how well Haskins does this week, how well he performs with those touches.
I just want to see Traylon Burks thrive, Axton. That's all I want. And it can't happen with Malik. He's just not ready. Maybe we get Ryan Tannehill back. Probably not, though. But whatever. Let's move on to the wide receivers. We are. I can't fall into Baker Mayfield, Tyler Algier, and Traylon Burke love hype speeches right now. It's not Valentine's Day. So let's move on to wide receivers. last week we had Isaiah Hodgins, which was 1 week off, or sorry, no, 2 weeks ago we had that 1 week off because he had a very good week against Minnesota this week, which I was so happy about. But we brought up Chris Moore, but Brandon Cooks was back, so 2 catches for 25 there. We brought up Romeo Dubs, 3 for 36. His snaps did double. Obviously disappointing. He didn't get in the end zone or didn't get more receptions, but Christian Watson did miss the rest half of the game with the hip flexor, so could be out for this week, which I do think Romeo Dubs could be a good play against the Vikings. Would be a great play, honestly. If Christian Watson is out, I think that's somebody to hold on for one more week for. So you consider him yet again a member on this list if you'd like. But let's. I'm going to kick it off with Greg Dortch. It only feels fitting to start this year with Greg Dortch on the show and end the year with Greg Dortch on the show. This is the Cardinals slot receiver, who I am 65% sure I spelled the name right, but I might have spelled it wrong. Definitely spelled it wrong, in fact. So he has a good role, and that's really what matters here. We were excited about what Rondale Moore could do, and when Rondale Moore was out, Greg Dortch thrived. That happened early in the year. It's happening right now. He saw 11 targets, caught 10 of them. He was Trace McSorley's favorite guy to go to. I think he'll be a favorite guy for Colt McCoy as well. It's just whether Dortch was healthy to thrive on it. And I like the slot role. He gets carries. He had 3 for 25. He gets targets because they're not really throwing it downfield. They attack the seam. And he has Atlanta this coming week, which is a lovely matchup for wide receivers. So Greg Dortch, Tyler Algier, Mike White, these guys are going to win you fantasy championships. It's a wild thing to say, but I really do think it's true. So Greg Dortch, I think, is a top 24 play this week somehow. I will.
He's only dropped 6 passes, or not dropped. He's only 6 passes short of being 100% on every target that's been thrown his way.
That's wild. That's
not
wild.
To say that he's only really played maybe a few snaps in several games, but in the games where he's had a heavy amount of targets in 4+ target games, he's only dropped max 2 in one game. Every other game, he's either caught every single one or just he just hasn't caught one. He was 9 for 10 week 11, 10 for 11 this last week. It just really seems like he's one of those favorite receivers because defenses really aren't honed in on him. They're honed in on D Hop, Ertz, and maybe Marquise Brown at this point. So he seems to be the one bright spot at least.
And it's with some really shoddy QB play too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that too, and obviously coaching, but that's another conversation.
So yeah, definitely a good play. I like that he came back. I didn't realize that he was out for quite so long.
Yeah.
He only played 5 snaps, 9 snaps. I don't know what's up with this.
They did move him back
injuries.
Some were injuries. Some were, I think, they did move him back to a healthy scratch. Which Cliff Kingsbury is going to make one of his better receivers a healthy scratch because he has to get AJ Green on the field. But yeah, while Rondale Moore was out, obviously they just didn't have a need for Greg Dortch. But Rondale Moore was healthy, they didn't have a need for Greg Dortch. Rondale Moore being sidelined means they need a slot receiver. Greg Dortch is the best one they have.
And he's done well. Absolutely. Then another one, I think we mentioned him
2
last
weeks ago,
week.
I think.
Was it 2 weeks?
I think so, because, yeah.
And that's Russell Gage. He's seen 3 touchdowns in as many weeks. Just in the last couple of weeks, he's seen 18 targets and 13 catches for over 130 yards combined for the last couple of weeks. Seems like Tom Brady's honing in on him a little bit more so as we get down the stretch. I assume Julio Jones is still injured.
He came back this week. He drew an OPI and he caught a ball. That's about what Julio Jones is at this point. It's a little bit sad to say, but that is what it is.
Russell Gage, he's the guy. Let's see. I've already mentioned 3 touchdowns last 3 games. Carolina allows almost 166 yards to the wide receiver position on a week-to-week basis.
And that lost J.C. Horn, too, as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. So it just seems like very, very favorable matchup for him this week against Carolina secondary.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And listen, it's tough to trust the Bucks. I mean, they barely scraped by the Trace McSorley Cardinals, but I do think Russell Gage can get it done for you this week in a pinch. And a lot of people are in those pinches. So let's move on to the tight end. We are running long because of my long-winded love for too many people that I probably have talked about on the show, to be honest. But tight ends last week. Kate Auden, disappointing. 2 for 12, had a drop. Didn't really see him for the rest of it. To talk about Gronk in Tampa again because of the disappointing production they've got out of their guys. Yeah, hasn't happened for Kate Auden this year like I was kind of hoping it would. But we talked about Noah Fant, also 2 for 12. But he scored. So saved your day a bit. Still was like the tight end 15 on the week. So not the day we were hoping for, but didn't sink your lineups. And honestly, you get 8 to 9 from your tight end, you're not feeling terrible. That's about what you get from Mark Andrews on any given week. So that's another sad thing to say. But I'll let you take it away for the tight ends. Which name do you want to go with first? We have two that are interesting plays. One's a hot hand, and the other one I haven't learned my lesson.
I like the Tyler Higbee pick.
Go for it.
Tyler Higbee's been pretty good throughout the entire season. He's had lulls and, in wake of all of the quarterback play and inconsistencies they've had this year. He's had a kind of up and down season. But as of late, the last couple of games, he's seen 16 targets. He's caught 13 of those balls. This last week, he saw 2 touchdowns on 94 yards. He's had 3 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. I think Baker Mayfield really seems to have found his anchor in this receiving core for the Rams, as he is also doing well, as we alluded to just a little bit ago. So I think should Baker Mayfield continue his play, I think Higbee is going to be one he's really going to lean on, especially moving forward. And against a Chargers defense that presents a pretty favorable matchup to the tight end position, I think Baker should continue to rely on Tyler Higbee. He's been a really great player all year long, low-key, and not really all that desirable for fantasy over the entire course of the year, but he's definitely been one of the higher end producers overall.
I like this play so much more if Derwin James misses, because we know what Derwin James could do to the tight end when he's on him. But Derwin James could miss this week with a concussion. I wouldn't be surprised at all, and that would mean only good things for Tyler Higbee, who has been, like you said, I think he's been. The Rams have found their form with Baker Mayfield right now. So a team with nothing to lose sometimes can be the most dangerous while they're winning games and they're feeling good about it. So I do like Tyler Higbee as a play this week, especially since the sheer amount of targets available on this team because of the injuries that have been suffered. So I think Higbee's really taking advantage of that. But I'm going to throw another name here. I don't blame anyone for not going with this. This is week 17. You don't want to trust your fantasy thing with it. Maybe it's a DFS thing even, but I do think he could have a good week. Jelani Woods, one of the lone bright spots of the Indianapolis Colts. Every time Jelani Woods gets the ball, he looks bigger, he looks faster, he looks better than the guy that is on him. And that was the story of the first quarter of last night's game and the only quarter that the Colts offense showed up in. And then when the offense left the field, we didn't get much more from Woods. They came on, I guess, spiritually, and then let Nick Foles get rocked, and then Nick Foles with an interception. It was just painful to watch. But Jelani Woods has had a quietly very productive year, somebody that we're probably going to be talking about as 2023 as a nice sleeper breakout candidate. But this is what he was. He was drafted to be athletic. He was out of UVA. He wasn't a highly touted prospect until he ran at the combine and had such an athletic score. He played 63% of snaps this week because Kylan Granson was out. And if Kylan Granson is out again, that allows Jelani Woods to run routes. So Nick Foles favors the tight end. We saw how that worked out early in the game. He favored throwing it to Mo Alley. He threw it to Jelani Woods. Jelani saw 5 himself. And again, the offense only played for a quarter. He faces the Giants, allowed the 10th most points to the tight end. It's only gone up since Xavier McKinney's been out. So I like Jelani Woods this week. I'm not afraid to say it, and I'm only saying it if Kylan Granson is out because they somehow feel the need to put Kylan Granson on the field over him. But I think Jelani Woods could get it done for you this week of a tune of a 5 for 50 type of thing. 5 for 50, and if he gets in the end zone, you're even happier. I do think he could do that again if Kylan Granson is out. That's a very big contingent for me. Any thoughts on that?
No, I like Jelani Woods. I was kind of hoping he'd have a little bit more of a breakout season this year, but it's really kind of come to form with just their lack of quarterback play throughout the season. But I do like him for for a good stash, at least for moving forward. But seeing his uptick in targets lately, and if Granson's out again, I think he'd be a solid. He ought to be a serviceable play this week. Any thoughts on Shane Zylstra? I'm not endorsing a pickup.
No,
but every time I looked at the Lions game this weekend, it was a touchdown pass to Shane Zylstra.
You're right to bring it up. You are 100% right to bring it up. I didn't want to put him on the dock because Chicago allows the second largest matchup for tight ends this year. So a guy that saw his season high 6 targets, and before that he saw 4 targets in 3 games combined. I don't blame you for bringing it up because the Lions have been trying to find their tight end since trading Hawkinson. I think they have chosen Zylstra to be that guy. I don't know if I'm even saying his name correctly, but I don't hate it. I just don't like the Chicago lineup because they've allowed 4 touchdowns to the tight end all season. And that is just, listen, do we think Shane Zylstra breaks that streak? Maybe, especially if Jamal Williams is out. Maybe they're not running it down there, but I'm just not willing to ride in my championship. I'm willing to ride Jelani Woods more than I'm willing to ride Shane Zylstra. But I have to do tight end rankings. I'll tell you this, he will be in them, and I'm going to have to face that down later tonight. So be sure to check that out as well on IDPGuys.org.
Yep, as I reiterate, I would definitely not
it's good to bring it up
here, but definitely
an
interesting name that I don't think anybody ever knew who even was before this week. So I just thought it was wild. 3 touchdowns coming out of nowhere.
It is important to bring up. But a couple questions in from Will, and if anybody else has any questions in the chat, we're going to go through them right now to help you guys with your leagues. He did say, where was his Dynasty question? I saw that one. Dynasty question. I'm assuming this is for just 2023 and beyond. We're not factoring the end of this season. Would you rather have Mike White or Brock Purdy as a stash? So Brock Purdy obviously will have Trey Lance coming back, likely healthy. It was a week 2 injury. Mike White has an open-ended situation. Mike White himself is a free agent, but Lamar Jackson is rumored to the Jets. Jimmy Garoppolo is rumored to the Jets. It could be a rookie. I think Mike White's my answer because I think Mike White has the highest chance of starting week 1 next year. I don't think Brock Purdy has a chance of it with the 49ers. I really don't, unless Trey Lance isn't healthy.
How long typically are rookie contracts?
For Brock Purdy, it'll be 4 years because it was a 7th round. I believe, I don't know if the 7th round pick is different. I'll double check that right now. But in terms of Mike White was undrafted, so his was only 2 years, and now he's a free agent. I fully expect them to bring him back. I would be really surprised if they didn't, but I'll double check the contract. Will you give your take on that?
No, it's no big deal. Yeah, I think Mike White's just gonna have a better chance, like you said, to see be a starting quarterback or see some playing time next year over Brock Purdy, because Purdy's just gonna be. I assume 49ers be keeping Garoppolo as well, so he just kind of drops down that depth chart and just kind of falls back in. But I'm curious. I'm not asking you to go Google everybody's contracts or anything. Do you have off the top of your head know how long Garoppolo's in there?
Garoppolo will be a free agent. Free agent. I'm pretty sure. Brock Purdy is under contract for the next 4 seasons or 3 seasons. So he will be a 49er and the same length that Trey Lance will be a 49er, or 1 year less than Trey Lance will be a 49er. But same concept of this is Trey Lance's team while Trey Lance is healthy. They didn't trade everything for him not to even get a chance at it. Brock Purdy would have to win the Super Bowl for this to happen. Or at least take him to the NFC Championship and have a chance.
Right. Yeah, I think if you're looking to keep Brock Purdy, you're just looking even more long-term than you are Mike White. I think Mike White has the better chance to see that starting role earlier. But if Trey Lance can't seem to get it done, and how the hype falls completely short when he does return. Just due to the just sheer lack of experience playing at the NFL level and having that hard. Again, just the experience, just having played the snaps against the NFL defenses, because although albeit it was his first snap of his first game of the season where he had only had the one healthy game, it didn't look that great. Brock Purdy looked to be a solid quarterback too, should Trey Lance not pan out. So might be more of a play. I'd say they definitely give Trey Lance the reins for a majority, if not all, this season, no matter how he plays. But that could be a little bit of a long shot. He could end up taking the role.
Yes, sir. We got a question on Twitter actually from @MattyBoyBlue1. So he says next week, week 17, he needs the defensive back. Would you play Jaquan Brisker, Kevin Byard, Justin Simmons, or Grant Delpit? Grant Delpit coming off a monster week himself in that weather situation. If you want, I'll look up the matchups for you. Grant Delpit has Washington, which is a tough matchup for the safety position this year. Jaquan Brisker, we talked picking. I believe so. He's saying, would you start? So I'm assuming, and he says ADB. I'm assuming one. Jaquan Brisker, who has also tough matchup. Byard, who will have Dallas, which is a good matchup, although that game could certainly get out of hand real quick. I wouldn't be surprised. And then Justin Simmons, who, we have a change. Nathaniel Hackett was fired. The team could be rallying. Just play Casey, which is another tougher matchup. So tough matchups all around, equally tough, except for Kevin Byard, who has a great matchup against Dallas.
I don't know.
Honestly, when we have guys of a similar tier, I'm going to chase Kevin Byard personally.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I like Brisker. Brisker's done great all season, but I think I'm going to go with Kevin Byard in that good matchup. I think Byard provides a more solid floor, especially with a great matchup. I think at the very least, you're still going to get 6 to 8 tackles out of him, and he'll be, he should at least get you your projection.
Yeah, and Simmons has had a really good string of games lately, so I really don't think you're going wrong with somebody like him. And I don't hate KC as a matchup either. There's just less chance of interception because Mahomes doesn't really throw them a ton. See, Patrick Mahomes. I don't hate these. I would go Byard. Byard would not play because I think we have some potential for a turnover. I would be worried about him getting pulled because I wouldn't be surprised. There's a 10-point spread right now. If Derrick Henry doesn't play, that's going to jump to probably jump a score, to be honest. It could be a 16-point spread if Derrick Henry doesn't play. And maybe then I get worried because maybe Dallas isn't airing it out and they're not doing what they normally do, which has been such a great source of fantasy production for the safety this year. But I mean, listen, you asked this on my Twitter, so you can always ask us later in the week if something changes like that. But I think for now, Byard would be my answer. And you're going the same? I like Brisker too, by the way. I do love Jaquan Brisker with a passion. Oh, I can't hear you.
Because I'm muted. No, I think I am in agreement. I think I'm going Byard. I like Jaquan Brisker. That non-favorable matchup really doesn't set too well. Justin Simmons plays the Chiefs. That's an exceptional matchup for, I think, the safety position. I think the Chiefs are...
It's about middle of the pack. It's a slightly below average one just because I think the lack of turnovers. But the downfield passing is definitely a source for Simmons to get a few. Right. I don't... Yeah, I think I go Byard, Brisker, Simmons, Delpit in that order for me.
Yep, I think that's pretty well how it sits with me as well.
Yeah, I think Brisker just has a high tackle floor that's probably the highest floor of the bunch of these guys, especially Eddie Jackson's outlet. I am so excited for Jaquan Brisker and his career, man. He is just such a baller. I love him so much. But again, I can't keep ranting about guys I like on this show. So we'll also mention Gerald Everett could be dropped. Goose egg last night, barely on the field. And yeah, barely on the field indeed. I don't know what the hell was going on with that, but We thought it would be somewhat phased out with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen back healthy. I didn't think it would be anything as extreme as that. But, yeah. Yeah. I'll be doing my tight end rankings. I don't expect them to be inside the top 10. We'll obviously see how it turns out because the tight end position is pretty stinky. But one last question in from Will. Thoughts on maybe dropping, I'm guessing, Jordan Mason, who he has for a CMC handcuff, for Calvin. Actually, I'll let you take this one. The answer is yes. The answer is yes. The answer is yes, yes, yes. The answer is drop.
This is Dynasty and Calvin Ridley is there.
There's no way.
Yeah. Why is he
now?
Why is
now,
he available
Will.
for pickup?
Yesterday, last week, 2 weeks ago.
Spend every
3 months ago.
fab dollar you got on him,
all of
and
it.
Then some. Like take a loan out and everything.
my livelihood, my show, my dignity, my Twitter, take it all. If you can get Calvin Ridley into Dynasty,
I want to join your league.
Well, I'm gonna need. I'll give you like 20 seconds for an explanation comment here because I'm gonna need something because that's gonna be on my mind for the rest of today. Like, listen, Calvin Ridley is one of the few guys this year that is a active player that is guaranteed to accumulate value. He is somebody that is going to guarantee to go up in height. He could be terrible next year, which I don't expect him to be. I think he'll be great, but he could be terrible. And he will be a top 5 round pick, a top 4 round pick, top 3 maybe in August. He says, Wednesday at midnight is your chance. I need to have an update on that. We are still going to have one more week of this show, so either tell me next week or check out either of our Twitters. Please, I need an update on that.
Surely, if he's still there, he's been there all season. 16 weeks this year. Nobody's thought to pick him up.
Well, I'd say he was dropped for some reason. I don't know why
okay, that could be.
Him.
That could be. If he was dropped this last week, then it may be a tough pickup. But yeah, throw everything you got on.
Dropped early in the year and just noticed him. Pick him up.
He had to have been hiding down there. And if nobody's picked him up to this point, you're the only one looking. You got to be the only one looking at it.
It's a Christmas, Hanukkah, holiday gift, New Year's Eve.
Happy New
gift.
Year, yeah.
Just
take it. Take that.
Listen, Trevor Lawrence is so legit. I want everything. Yeah. He's got no fab left. He's got no flab left. That accent. Listen,
it's tragic.
Nobody's noticed him for 16 weeks.
Yeah, you got to pick him up before the season ends because when the season ends, that's when people are going to be looking for their pickups for the next season. I'm not sure if your fab or your waiver wire closes or anything like that. But
it's the equivalent. It's the equivalent of picking up 2 second-round picks for Jordan Mason. It's the equivalent of picking up a first-round pick for Jordan Mason.
He's like a second or third rounder in startups. So, I mean, and he's sitting on your waiver wire.
I'd send 2 seconds for him right now if I could. If I could. And I can't because I tend to have him in a lot of leagues.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I don't do it. Just do it. I'm glad we got that question in because you're
about to pick up one of your starting wide receivers for next season off the waivers.
Yeah, your wide receiver 2, potentially your wide receiver. We have Zay Jones on this show every 3 weeks. We have Zay Jones.
This is the most wide receiver action we've had all year.
I have been so right on Zay Jones this year, and he's not good. He drops everything. He's not that good. But Trevor Lawrence makes him that good. And Christian Kirk is at his moments. And I think Calvin Ridley is going to be. I keep on ranting on guys I like. Calvin Ridley is one of the guys I love for next season. I'm very excited for that.
And if you get him, you're getting him for free. Like, that's bonkers.
Yeah. Go for it, man. I wish you the best of luck with that, Will. And I wish everyone the best of luck in their championship matchups again. Be sure to check out the IDP guys on Twitter. Be sure to follow there. That's where all the content goes, where this show goes as well as us too. You can follow me at Michael__Sicoli on Twitter. Follow Axton Harding _3. And of course, IDP guys, subscribe to the YouTube and check out idpguys.org/contest to put yourself in for free for a signed Kobe Dean jersey. Just got to follow a few things on that, but go to that link in the description as well for that to check that out because it is we're only doing it for the next 88 YouTube subscribers. So get in now. But we have our last waiver wire show next week. for our Week 18 special. For all the people still playing in Week 18, we still look out for you guys and just have a good time there. And he does say he has AJ Brown, Waddle, St. Brown, Christian Watson, Hollywood, and Jameson Williams. Add to the wealth of riches, my man. Just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. But I hope everyone has a good, happy New Year. Hope everyone had a good holiday season. We're gonna wrap up right now because I'm gonna have my head explode right now. So good luck in your finals matchups. I wish everyone the best of luck.
Yep. Everybody.